welcome to Once Upon a Time at the Oscars.
We'll take that again.
No, we use that.
The show that takes you through every Best Picture nominee from 1927 to today.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Ryan, and I just absolutely hand swatted this pop filter.
Not again.
Well, the good news is I didn't hurt anything. This was just kind of like a slight, nudge, and I had to re-establish.
You immediately started with like a chuckle, and then when you tried to redeem yourself, you were like...
I just Jackie Chan'd this entire pop filter.
So good.
My apologies to the pop filter family and that cable I just hit. So, how do you feel about magic?
Oh, I love magic. Did I tell you the story of when I was on set last time?
You did.
As a poker thing? Did I tell the podcast?
You didn't. You told me off pod.
Okay, here's a really quick version of this. I was cast as a card dealer at a casino, and I was there for 3 days, and man, I was sitting around bored for such a long time. But there was a deck of cards in front of me the entire time, and there was this trick that I learned in high school where you hold the entire deck of cards in your right hand and you flip one of the cards. It spirals through the air and lands in your left hand. So I just was practicing that for like 24 hours, just bop, bop, bop. And at one point, the director saw it and was like, "That's really cool. You should maybe do that." And
do
I was
that
like,
on camera.
Tee-hee, ha-ha. And then the last scene we were filming, it was like a walkthrough of the casino. And he filmed it a couple times. And on almost the last take, he said, "All right, we're going to change this. Sophie, you're going to do this. Alexandra, you're going to do this. And Kyle, when I point to you, do the trick." And I was like, "Okay." And he did the walkthrough, boom, boom, boom. And he said, "Kyle." And I went, "Perfect." And I've never felt so cool in my life. So magic's all right, whatever. If
Has that come out yet?
No. And I probably got cut.
Well, please let us know when
Yeah.
it drops, because we would love to see. Maybe we can put this clip over that clip of you.
Yeah, that'd
Catching
be cool. It's one of those vertical shorts, or not shorts, but vertical soap opera things.
Yeah.
So I'll probably
worth
have to
it.
pay like $27 over the course of scrolling 87 times and be like, "Yeah, I want to watch the next 30-second clip." But if it's there, I will share it with you all.
I look forward to that.
How do you like magic?
I do. I do like magic. I tend to love, the idea of what actually is happening. I know that, I don't believe magic is real in that sense or anything, but magic, the process. I'm so sorry I just saw you absolutely, your eyes widened.
New host.
New host. No, please. But no, in this sense, I love the veil and shadow behind it.
Yeah.
I love the reason that it's given. Penn and Teller is a group that I really appreciate, because they will show you the trick, and in some cases will then show you how they did it, because that in itself is like a magic trick. Like, how do you construct this?
Right.
And I love that. I love the ability to fool audiences and know that there's a way to do it. I don't always have to know. Most of the time you don't want to know.
Right.
But in some cases you're like, I think I kind of have to know actually how you did that. So it's great. It plays with reality a little bit, which I like.
I like that a lot of magic tricks are kind of that, either bait and switch, or they make you think one thing and then it's completely different and it catches you off guard, which I think is fitting, because that's kind of what happened to me with this movie.
That's true. It's very psychological in the sense of you've secretly been saying elephant related things for the past hour, and then you have me draw something and I draw an elephant and you're like, "You drew an elephant, didn't you?" Because you've been planting that seed the whole time.
Right.
And you trick the audience into thinking that you're seeing something or you're doing something that you think is organic, but it's not, and you planted it. So that little trick you're talking about is, of course, the fact that we watched a David Copperfield movie that is not related to The Magician at all.
Nope.
So us bringing up magic is completely off the point. I will say, I knew that this was a Charles Dickens novel.
Yeah.
But I never knew what the Charles Dickens novel was about. So I figured there was some kind of magic element to it. Not that it's about a magician, but magic element to it that would inspire David Copperfield, the magician, to take the name. And I think in reality, it's just, I really like the Charles Dickens novel. So now or his name's actually David Copperfield. There's always that answer too.
That's probably the more likely thing. Do you really think he's a Charles Dickens fan?
Oh, I think a lot of people are.
Yeah, but him?
Why are we saying Why are we doing the Arrested Development her thing for David Copperfield? The magician.
I don't know. I know nothing about this man. I've actually never seen David Copperfield perform a single magic trick, but I just imagine he's busy. You know, he can't read. He doesn't have time for a big old thick Charles Dickens.
He's too busy ripping open a time-space continuum for his new trick.
Is that the level of trick he does?
I know that his most recent thing on Vegas involved an alien, where like a UFO came down and, well,
that's science.
I think he levitated, and you're like, how did you levitate?
Well, he's an alien.
No. There was an alien brought into the act.
Okay.
It's not how I'm David Copperfield, I'm actually an alien. It's that he interacted with an alien. Like, there's an abduction.
Who levitated?
Him. Because of the beam, the tractor beam into the UFO. That's my understanding of what he did.
So the alien is the magician. Like, what are we doing? Anyway.
Now I would watch Las Vegas residency of a new magic act, and it's just alien.
Yeah.
And it's just like a gray alien, like, and it just says alien at the top.
Yeah, he can't talk. It's like the Prometheus and Bob tapes. Do you remember that?
Prometheus and Bob has been getting some traction in the Discord for the past month.
I think about it a lot, so any opportunity.
Any kablam I can bring up. We should talk about this movie. So David Copperfield is, as we mentioned, a adaptation of the Charles Dickens novel. I'll steal your job just a little bit here. The screenplay was by Howard Estabrook, and it had 3 nominations in total. We had, I hate that I just did that. Film editing by Robert J. Kern. Assistant director was Joseph Newman, and outstanding production was MGM.
Yeah, and I kind of want to change the way I do the cast here.
Okay.
I'm just going to say that, well, one, this was directed by George Cukor, but also starred Freddie Bartholomew, Frank Lawton. They both played David Copperfield.
One the child, one the man.
That's correct. And like a slew of other people. There's so many people in this movie.
Spans a lot of time, so a huge cast of characters.
Yeah, and I think I'm just going to kind of bring them up as we talk about them
Totally
when they
fine.
appear, because there's so many. One I want to shout out is W.C. Fields. He is mentioned in the pilot episode of Twin Peaks, and like Cooper says a quote by W.C. Fields. So when his name popped up in the credits, I was like, is this the one where he says the quote? It's not. But.
Well, there's an interesting story about W.C. Fields, and we'll get into it here. But I've seen a lot of, specifically going like physical media hunting, I've seen a lot of W.C. Fields collections, a lot of comedies. So we'll talk a little bit about him once we get into the plot here. But the plot of David Copperfield, essentially, if you've never read the book, is that a young boy and his mother deal with the loss of her husband, his father. Is that right?
This is true. I wanted so bad to throw in a jab and be like, this is for you, David Copperfield, the magician, because I know you haven't read it. But I thought of it so late, so I'm sorry I interrupted you.
I just appreciate the fact that we're like now shading, like throwing shade at the magician David Copperfield when he's like, my name is David Copperfield.
He did nothing wrong.
He did nothing wrong.
And he may have read it.
But I will go ahead and plant a flag right here and right now and say that David Copperfield, the Las Vegas residency magician, is not listening to this episode.
Not yet.
Well, not yet.
And probably not anymore.
I feel like it's going to be like a Back to the Future type thing where they're like, hey, Mr. David Copperfield, listen to this.
Yeah.
And it's like his interns like holding it up. That's not happening. So after the loss of his father, David and his mother are struggling to find a way to move forward. And she brings in a suitor who, did you also catch this? David at one point says he looks like a panther.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Spooky.
Very spooky. And this man then causes some distance between David and his mother. And ultimately, through a tragic series of events, David finds himself traveling at a very young age and reestablishes his life with a new group of people.
Yeah.
And this is told through the many years of David's life from beginning, not to end, but maybe middle age, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe
like
30, 40 years old.
Oh, yeah. I would
he's
have
not
thought
quite
even
like-
younger than that.
Potentially. I mean, maybe like or late 20s or something. I don't know. Anyways, point is, we're watching kind of the tragedies of David's life blossom into the opportunities that he gets later in life.
Yeah. This is kind of an interesting story because the things that happen in David's life are very much tragedies. But the movie itself is kind of shaped like a comedy a lot of the time.
It is.
most of the characters you meet are very eccentric and kind of weird, a lot of them. I want to talk about the last frame of this movie because what a closing to it. Yeah, so much of it is like, look at this guy. Haha, he's so funny. Oh no, what's happening to David? It's rough.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I should have paired this with like a Safdie film because a lot of this, it's not quite as sad or as disturbing or stressful as those.
Yeah.
It might be as sad as those, but it feels like every 5 minutes, it's David doing something you're like, I really like this kid. This kid's pretty cool. This is a good one. Hey, what happened to your mom? Like it's something tragic happens, or we've seen specifically how his stepfather, who is played Mr. Murdstone, I believe is his name.
Yeah, Basil Rathbone.
Basil Rathbone, thank you so much. Played extremely well. I did read that Basil Rathbone was specifically a little like very overly kind when the cameras went off to be like, I'm so sorry I have to play this horrible person.
That's good.
But he, to David's point, looks like a panther when they see him at the funeral of his father. And as he gets closer to the family and starts like being romantically involved with David's mother, we start seeing his abusive nature. He brings his sister around, and she is also very terrible to him and controlling. Mm-hmm. And we've seen David actually getting beaten and, abused by Murdstone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough because at times it's really hard to feel the rhythms of this movie. Because at times it wants to be very joyous and celebratory, and other times it is extremely sad. And the majority of this movie, I'd say about 70 to 75%, is David as a boy. So we are following specifically the performance by Freddie Bartholomew. And I want to go ahead and say, I thought Freddie Bartholomew was fantastic in this.
I think he's the highlight performance in this movie.
Easily.
This is the first time, really, that we've seen a child actor since The Champ with Jackie Cooper, little Jackie Cooper. I almost forgot.
It is so funny that happened in this conversation about Freddie Bartholomew because that is almost exactly what ended up happening between them. So Freddie was actually the second highest paid child actor, right behind Shirley Temple, by the late 1930s. So not quite at this point, but this was leading to the path where he became the second highest paid actor, child actor. And notice that in nowhere in that did we mention Jackie Cooper.
Yeah.
So Jackie Cooper is now kind of watching the new generation come in and take over that spot that he previously held.
Yeah, I imagine it's one of those things at this point where that is constantly shifting.
100%.
So Wallace Beery is not top of the food chain at this point. And you'll notice, we haven't seen Wallace Beery this year yet, and I don't know that we will. Mm-mm. So, Viva Villa, he shows up. But yeah, Jackie Cooper is kind of like the only example we have of a child actor really taking a lead role up until this point with Freddie Bartholomew. And I think he's fantastic in this movie. His performance feels kind of less adult than Jackie Cooper does. Jackie Cooper almost feels like we've said it, like a 30-something-year-old in a child's body, just like, yeah, this is how I get my roles. I just pretend to be a kid.
Well, the difference is that in Jackie Cooper's performances, he is playing, like we said, like Joe Pesci as a child.
Right, yeah.
Like Joe Pesci inside of a child's body. So it's just him being like a wisecracking, smart, no-nonsense kid.
Yeah.
But he likes to goof off from time to time. In this, there's a curiosity behind Freddie in his performance that makes you feel like he is a kid. Mm-hmm. Now, he's not like some, I don't know how the world works and, I'm making mistake after mistake. It's more he's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But life is just treating him terribly in this. And that curiosity that you see out of Freddie and the heartbreak of, his mother and everything. There's a really kind of heartbreaking scene of when he's leaving on a carriage with his, I'm going to say nanny, I guess.
Peggotty,
that's right. He calls her Peg, which I thought was very funny.
Yeah.
Couldn't stop hearing the Steely Dan song throughout that. So he's leaving on a horse carriage with Peg, and he's waving at his mother. And as he's waving bye to his mother, Rathbone comes in, Mr. Murdstone.
Yeah.
And he kind of almost is like death, approaching on her and then grabbing her, kind of consuming her, is how it seems. And you see Freddie's wave, or David, but the actor. You see his wave, and his wave gets less enthusiastic as he sees Murdstone.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see the realization on Pegady's face that like he realizes that like something's different after he leaves. And that to me was just kind of like, it felt so hurtful, like it's so impactful that happened to him. And I think the little like subtle performances, it wasn't him bursting into tears and like falling into the shoulder of like Pegady. It was more like just the kind of realization on his face. So I thought he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
To a point where when we get introduced to David the Man, played by Frank Lawton, completely fine. I have nothing bad to say about Frank Lawton. Just isn't Freddie. Like that's all I can say.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as interesting. And it feels like this was a movie that I was so interested in the first, not even half, again, like 70% of the movie.
Yeah.
And then once it makes the switch, I just could not find much interest beyond that, except when like Pegady or some other people show up and you're like, oh yeah, I remember you. I kind of liked you. But you just don't feel like you can connect as much with David the Man as you could with David the Child.
No, and I think the story plays a lot in that disinterest that shows up, because Freddie Bartholomew, he goes through so much in such a short amount of time, and his acting, there's such a demand for him to do different things. He does have those subtle bits of the sad wave and thing, and the realization of, oh, things are about to get really bad for me. But then he also does have those moments where he breaks out into tears, and there are so many just like extreme close-ups of his face, and he's doing a great job. And I hope that his dog is okay. But like all of that goes away once David Copperfield ages and becomes Frank Lawton, and the tragedies, while they still show up to a lesser degree, they're also not as, I don't know, big, as weighted. So it just feels like he has less to do, and the overall narrative is just kind of boring, really, once he's an adult.
Yeah, it's kind of, I say I enjoyed the first like 70% of this movie, and I did, but the things that happen to David and the cast of characters in this feel less like, here's this impactful thing and here's how it's going to affect the rest of my life. And it's more like, here's terrible event A, and then here comes terrible event B. And it's just kind of like a series of events over and over, which makes it not as interesting. I felt like it was less shaping him. And you could still see this, again, great performance, but you could see less of like, when we see David the Man, you're not like, oh, you're so affected by this and this, that it causes this. It's just more, no, I'm the man now, and I'm pretty much over all that stuff.
Yeah, doesn't matter what you went through, you would have gotten to this point anyway.
Right, and that kind of like negates the whole experience before that, which I didn't really didn't resonate with me. I wanted to point out too that we talked about this, I think 1 year ago, Smiling Through. Cedric Gibbons was the art director for this movie, as he was with Smiling Through. And in case you didn't hear our Smiling Through episode, we talked about how Cedric Gibbons was a big fan of kind of putting in some nods to his previous work. So in this movie, specifically in the beginning, when David and his mother are going to visit the gravestone of his father, you can actually see in the background the tombstone for Moon Yeen, which was, of course, played by Norma Shear in Smiling Through.
R.I.P.
I thought this was, it's very cool to see this. Like, it feels kind of like, I know it's not this, and this is very vain of me to think, but it feels kind of like it rewards the exact thing we're doing, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's very cool that a year or two passes and people can see this and be like, oh, I think that's from that movie I saw that one time. But to us specifically, with how quickly we're watching these movies and covering them, it feels like it feels like a checkpoint. And it feels kind of like a nod from someone in the movie being like, hey, yeah, look at this. This was only a couple months ago for you, wasn't it? Isn't that cool? Feels neat.
It really is cool.
It feels like a conversation through history or through time, where Cedric Gibbons is saying something in 1935 and we can hear it in 2026 and kind of like recognize it. It's very cool. I really, really like that.
Yeah, and you hear all the time about how these studios, they would have these sets that they would reuse and these props they would reuse. So not only is it cool for us in the like, oh, look, Easter egg, but it's also just like an example of how this was done and how frequently it was done. Because that was only a couple years prior. So I just imagine that tombstone was sitting around in the prop house, and he was like, Yeah, we'll use that one. No one will really care.
See, and that's the thing is that like they could have turned it around and they could have like covered the name up and like, put moss or snow or something over it so you can't see it. But it is displayed. So it is intentional.
Yeah, you're right. It does feel like he thought maybe eagle-eyed viewers will get a kick out of this.
Right, because if you put it in the background and you can kind of see an M, you could be like, well, I guess it could be for Moon Yin, but really, who could tell?
Yeah.
And it is like, I think front and center.
It's pretty prominent.
It's in the background, but it is in the center of the frame.
Right.
So it's pretty prominent. Definitely something I was looking for, but I could see it very clearly. So that felt intentional. I think you're right. They're like, hey, we have tombstones in the back. That's fine. But that specifically being Cedric Gibbons, that to me feels like, no, we're gonna do a little nod here.
I do like the thought that we're completely wrong, and he forgot even what that went to. He's like, I don't care, just grab one.
He reads it, he's like, who the hell is Moon Yin?
Yeah, what's that? Speaking of Cedric Gibbons, though, I remember briefly you brought him up, and you were like, oh, what else did he do? And I couldn't think of anything at the time.
Wasn't it during Cavalcade he did the I almost called it bridge, like it's a damn song. He does this section where it kind of like flashes through time and shows like montages of war.
I don't think Cavalcade was an MGM picture, so that wasn't him. But he does like the Wizard of Oz and everything. Mm-hmm. Like every time he gets brought up, I'm like, he's one of the most celebrated production artists of all time. And we just went over that where you were like, what else did he do? And I was like, I don't remember. But here he is again. Like every time MGM pops up, just like Douglas Shearer, here is Cedric Gibbons. And this movie spans so many different settings and time periods that you do get a pretty solid dose of like Cedric Gibbons' work. However, there was no nomination for production design. So I don't know. So far this year, like all of the nominees feel a little weird to me.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I'm with you. I think that of what we've covered so far, I really enjoyed Les Mis. Mm-hmm. Lives of a Bengal Lancer, I thought was fine, but it just kind of feels like a swing and a slight miss with the majority of these.
Yeah, and I think that trend will continue, like with next episode, where, I mean, this year has 12 nominees, but this one's really feeling like, okay, you guys didn't have to have 12.
We could maybe have 5 to 7.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels weird. Not to spoil how we feel about this movie, but what are we doing?
But spoil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And it feels just kind of like maybe it's adaptations. Maybe it's the sense of like, well, hey, we were going to make a very famous literary work into a movie because Little Women did that and it got great recognition. And plenty of movies have gotten adaptations and then have been like, great critical successes.
Les
Mis, but also have done really well with awards. Les Mis. So
Farewell to Arms.
Farewell to Arms. And it's worth pointing out that not only is this not the only adaptation this year, this isn't the only Dickens adaptation to be nominated for Best Picture. And not only that, it is not the only Dickens adaptation to be nominated for Best Picture that was produced by David O. Selznick. And that's Tale of Two Cities.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, there you go.
More Dickens.
So Selznick, we've talked about a lot about how he's just like, we need more adaptations.
Yeah.
And that's going to work out for him in the long run. We'll get there. But it is something that we're seeing a lot of, what's the word? We're seeing a lot of proof in the pudding of a lot of adaptations right now. And I think that's kind of what's murking the waters a little bit, where it's more important to kind of like take these stories that have already established tragic events and then how do you put that on screen? And it takes a skillful hand. It can't just be done by just about anyone. And George Cukor, who we've seen movies from before, and he's very competent. There's nothing wrong with this movie in terms of the way he structures it. It just feels flat.
Yeah, and I don't put that on the director at all for this particular thing. I think it really is the story. I think some adaptations, some stories really are really exciting and catch our interest, and then some are like this. I want to talk a little bit more about the plot before we get into like the things that sound like our final thoughts.
Right.
But I did see someone mention in Letterboxd that this really feels like it should have been an example of an early split into two different movies. And maybe this year you had like the young David Copperfield movie, and then next year you had like an extended version of Frank Lawton's story as older David Copperfield. And while that really hasn't been done yet, I mean, we're not really getting sequels to say. I think that would have worked really well, because you do have Freddie Bartholomew like go through his entire story, and it is very effective, and we both enjoyed it, and we were excited for, what was to come. But then the shift into Frank Lawton, you mentioned like he sees characters return, but since you just saw them 5 years ago, there's not a whole lot of like weight to those meetings.
Yeah, I mean, even the decoration, even the like costume designing and like the hairstyling and makeup has not changed for these characters because it hasn't been that long amount of time.
It looks like the only people that have aged are the children.
Yes.
And everybody else is the same exact person.
W.C. Fields may a little bit have some age to him, but not too much. And it just feels kind of like, oh yeah, the only way I know it's 10, 15 years later is that David isn't a child anymore.
Right. And I think, even though it is kind of boring, like if they split it into 2 movies, I'd be like, boy, I really like part 1. But I think extending the length of the older David Copperfield story and maybe adding some more weight to what I think are some of the bigger moments, like the ship sequence where he's out doing something. I wasn't following along very well with that whole thing, but it is like the action sequence of the movie where he goes out to sea to find somebody.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I kind of checked out on this too, unfortunately. And I'll push back a little bit on that Letterboxd review that you saw that said it should be split into 2 movies, because I think the issues with this movie are that second, I keep saying second part, the last fourth of the movie, I guess, where it is David the Man. And to me, I think if you split that into a movie, that just accentuates the problems. And in reality, anything that you could have done, you called it out there. Like, hey, maybe if you like beef up the story a little bit and like massage, like, the reasons why David is the way he is and like how that has kind of shaped to where he is now and confronting those things, that could be done in this movie. Like that could have been done here to make it like more cohesive. Because to me, that would be a scenario where I'm like, hey, yeah, David Copperfield Part 1, it's great. Not going to watch David Copperfield Part 2 because I'm not as interested in that.
Yeah, but I think if you did add those things to Frank Lawton's section, it would be so long. This movie's already long.
Oh, sure.
2 hours and 10 minutes, which is wild for this time period.
Well, and that's the thing, is that I feel like it's kind of good and bad. Because again, I like the Freddie Bartholomew sections of David Copperfield, and that's a majority of the movie. And it waxes and wanes a little bit here and there. But ultimately, because you're enjoying it, you want to see more of it. And then we get to Frank Lawton's side, and you're like, are we at the halfway point of this movie?
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's been going on for like an hour and 50 minutes.
And it has.
And then it continues on for another 20 minutes with a pretty disengaging version of the story told on Frank Lawton's side. And again, I don't necessarily know if it's even the performance problem. I think it's the way that the character is written.
Yeah.
Which is strange because it's a Dickens adaptation, so you'd think it'd be pretty, faithful to those events. And when we talk about Dickens adaptations, we have to talk about W.C. Fields. So, W.C. Fields, I'm not quite sure if he's known for comedy exclusively at this time, but is well known for his comedy efforts. And whenever he takes a project, he's always known for ad-libbing and like having a distaste for child actors.
Okay.
Right? He's like, I'm going to ad-lib and I'm going to like not enjoy working with children. And they're like, well, hey, what are you doing in this movie where you absolutely cannot ad-lib because it's a Dickens novel?
Right.
And you are cast alongside a child.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to do this?
That's a kid.
I have bad news for who David the child is portrayed by. A child. And
A child.
W.C. Fields decided to forego both of these qualities to portray his character was macabre. And it's because he admired Dickens so much. And not even just Dickens, but this novel specifically. He was such a large fan that he was like, I don't have to ad-lib. I will work alongside the kid. It does not matter. I got to play this character.
Yeah.
And he was so passionate about that. And there's something infectious about his performance in this.
He's fun.
Because you can see him like really excited to take this on.
Yeah.
And again, this is a comment on the caliber of acting at this time, and I'm sure still to a point now. But we commented on Wallace Beery and how much he was having fun acting alongside, Jackie Cooper and a couple other people. And then you hear he was just kind of miserable to be on set with, and specifically didn't want children acting with him.
Right.
Or at least sharing or stealing his camera time. To hear that and then hear this, it's just a testament to how well they're doing, because I thought the relationship between David and Macabre was pretty fun. Am I saying that right? Macabre?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought it was macabre just by how you pronounced it. And then I looked at the spelling. I was like,
no, that's
nope.
I thought that was it.
Yeah, that's the one. No,
yeah, I thought he was great.
He's so much fun. And his character has this shtick where he almost speaks like V from V for Vendetta.
Yes.
And then he follows it up with, in short, blah, and just summarizes everything into like 3 words.
Unfortunately, I felt so seen by Macabre, because I feel like that's me professionally. Not even professionally, even personally, where someone will ask me a question, and I hope you can relate. I hope you can't relate. They'll ask him a question, and he'll answer for about 90 seconds. And then at the end be like, but in short, no. I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I do that too. Add a 90-second pause before that, though, for me.
You just start with, in short, no.
I just go, and then, yeah, that's all.
A great little characterization from him. And again,
he's so much fun.
You can kind of see the manic nature that W.C. Fields brings to Macabre in that he's not just saying it because that's how the character's written, or like that's the line for him. You can specifically see like the manic nature of his brain moving a mile a minute, and him kind of catching himself and being like, but in short, we probably shouldn't do that.
Right.
Very cool. I really, really liked his performance here. I think it's the second standout after Freddie Bartholomew.
Yeah.
And you could just see the passion kind of like pouring off his performance. But again, his interaction with David Copperfield in Freddie Bartholomew, it's just, I would have never been able to tell that he had a distaste for child actors.
Right. Yeah, no, I guess it's not even chemistry. It's just he's so great that I can't imagine anything else.
Well, I'd say it is chemistry because they bounce off each other a bit. Like, I think that Freddie is so used to being around... I keep saying Freddie. I think David the Child is so used to being around characters like Murdstone or his sister, and feeling kind of rejected, that when he finds someone who also has this very, like, excited nature and wants to help him, like, kind of, like, nurture that curiosity that David has... I think that he's kind of infatuated with that.
No, I agree. Like, that's kind of the bummer that we're talking about, is David meets so many interesting characters, and then ultimately they don't shape his character at all by the end of the movie.
No, they really
don't.
But
let's talk a little bit about some more of these interesting characters, because that's also a major selling point of this movie. It feels... The way Grand Hotel was an ensemble piece, also an MGM picture, MGM is doing the same thing here, where they're like, let's just throw everybody into this movie and have some fun with it. We mentioned Clara Peggotty, the nanny, played by Jessie Ralph. She's wonderful as well. She's very sweet. She's very charming. I will say, I had a moment where I looked at the cast while I was watching this, and I saw Lionel Barrymore's name popped up. And my eyes must have crossed, and I thought he played Peggotty. So I was sitting there squinting like, is he in there?
So it's very funny that you say that. He played Dan Peggotty.
Right. That's where the mix-up came from.
Yeah, you saw something Peggotty, and you were like, Mrs. Peggotty?
She leans forward, and the button pops off the back of her dress, and I was like, Lionel would do that.
Lionel Barrymore is pulling a Doubtfire. Hello!
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. So, very funny.
He's doing really good work, though. And at times, I was kind of like, oh my God, that is Lionel Barrymore. Mm-hmm. And really enjoyed his performance. Edna Mae Oliver is Aunt Betsy. And Aunt Betsy is one of the first people on screen. There's a GIF that I love sharing of Conan O'Brien at a window. And it's him like peering in and kind of like clawing at the window to get in. And he's sad. And I send that in work all the time whenever someone's like, all right, well, I'm off to fly to this place. And I'm just like, take me with you. So I share that all the time. And as someone who shares that all the time, Aunt Betsy actually has that exact moment in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Terrible storm outside, and it's just absolutely blustering. And she's standing at the window, and she's just like banging on the window to get in. And I was like, who is this crazy woman? Turns out it's her sister. But anyways.
Yeah.
when she's introduced, I was like, well, this is clearly the villain of the movie.
Right.
Like, she's just like, hey, it's going to be a girl. I know it. And as soon as they're like, hey, it's a boy, she's like, I'm out of here.
Bye.
I'm just straight up leaving the movie.
I know. I thought she was trying to like steal an inheritance. And then because it was a boy, she was like, oh, well, there goes that plan.
Yeah. And then she just absolutely exits
Yes.
for like the majority of the movie. But she returns later on, and we see that, like, you know, we see the misunderstanding of that character, and we see her actually being like a role model and a positive reinforcement for David. And I really liked her overall.
Listen, she is the only character that got like a genuine laugh out of me. She's so funny because she's awful. Like, she's so rude and mean, but she doesn't believe she is.
Right.
Like, she is the only one doing right in this movie. And there is such a great sequence where she is so particular about her lawn and her garden. And when Mr. Murdstone shows up to reclaim David Copperfield, they're riding donkeys, and she runs outside with her housemaid.
Yes.
Yeah. And she's like, get those donkeys out of here. And she like shoos away the poor guy who like wrangles the donkeys. It's so funny. It's so funny. She's like getting in the face of Mrs. Murdstone, and God, I laughed so hard.
Well, the comedy of that scene for me, and I agree with you, that got a huge laugh out of me, but the comedy that I really appreciated was that she just got done telling David, hey, your stepfather's coming. I'm sure it's not going to go extremely well, but we got to try and make the best of it, okay? And then she looks out the window and sees the donkeys. And it happens to be like his stepfather on the donkeys, but she's like, she just sees red, and she's like, get those donkeys out of here. And he's like, no, Aunt, that's my stepfather. That's Murdstone. She's like, I don't care. Get the donkeys out of here. And she just shoos them away. And afterwards, when they leave, I think he tries to say something where he's like, that was him. And she's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
The donkeys did not need to be on my lawn. And it was just so funny to hear her just say the donkeys over and over. But hearing her specifically be like, hey, we got to be on our best behavior. And then shooing the donkeys away was great.
I love it too when they're arguing like, okay, David's coming with us. And she kind of goes around the room and she's like, okay, well, Mr. Murdstone, what do you have to say about this? And like he says his piece and she's like, interesting. Mrs. Murdstone? And like everybody goes around and she asks David, and then she even asks her roommate, right? Yeah. And he says, I think we should get David a new suit. And she stands up and she's like, I want to shake your hand. Like, she's just so zany, I think. And it's one of the best qualities of this movie is that even some of the most influential characters in David's life are just bonkers and off the wall.
Yeah, and I think one way we can tell that is that Murdstone's sister, I guess her name is also Murdstone, she is really vicious throughout the majority of the movie. But then when she meets Aunt Betsy, she is kind of like, it's almost like she's met her match.
Yes.
Because she'll be like, well, this was perfectly polite. And she'll just say like kind of the nice or the right things, but still with a kind of a tone. And you can kind of see her being like, oh no, this woman could actually defeat us.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. Because again, it's a subtlety that you don't really like, you didn't expect to come from her. So I really appreciate all of these roles. I mean, whether it be Edna Mae Oliver, Basil Rathbone, W.C. Fields, Lionel Barrymore as Dan Peckety.
Yeah.
You're right. It's a cast of characters and you're really interested in them. And there's something very infectious about that cast of characters when it's surrounded by a performance that you can really get behind, like Freddie Bartholomew.
Right.
And it's when Freddie Bartholomew ages out and goes to Frank Lawton as David the Man. I don't know why I had to look that up.
David the Man.
With the power. Specifically, when Frank Lawton comes on a screen, you're like, okay, well, at least I have these cast of characters kind of like, carry this with me. And they just aren't really as involved with each other anymore. It's more kind of a reunion tour where it's like, cool, now David the Man is going to go see this person. And now David the Man is going to see this person. And they aren't together. So the movie can't sing like that anymore.
Right.
So a movie that's already overly long feels even longer. And I couldn't get behind it. And I was just kind of like, that's why I can barely even remember what you were citing about like going on a ship for like a rescue or searching for someone.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
In what should be the most exciting part of this movie, that is such a snooze fest. Because you are kind of like, okay, but why is he doing this? Do I care? Who is he looking for? And I think he's gone to look for Emily, his childhood friend who's like run away, and maybe something happened with like her suitor, the guy that gets like knocked off the boat. I really cannot remember. It is so pointless to me.
Well, and that's the frustrating thing, is that there's plenty of, 3-hour movies that you and I enjoy that like I could watch from beginning to end, no problem, because it keeps you engaged throughout.
Yeah.
And this just has a real problem of keeping and holding that engagement. So I would absolutely recommend watching this movie for the first like 70% of it, because I think Freddie Bartholomew is doing some great work. And if we can see Jackie Cooper nominated for Best Actor, why aren't we seeing Freddie Bartholomew? I have some questions about that.
What's up with that? That's when we
What's
need
up with that?
Our juvenile award, I guess. A couple of other names I want to throw out here. You have Lewis Stone makes a return appearance here as Mr. Wickfield. Elsa Lanchester also returns in this movie, and she plays one of the like nannies of, honestly, I don't remember if it's W.C. Fields' character or if it's Lionel Barrymore's character. But she's very briefly in it, but she's her typical Elsa Lanchester self, where she's kind of like all over the place and just trying to take care of these children. If you haven't listened to the Horror of the Overlooked episode this month, be sure to tune in, because we spent a lot of time discussing Elsa Lanchester.
Honestly, I think this year specifically, or this month specifically, we'll be talking a lot about the Laughtons and Lanchesters. So that relationship is going to have a lot of coverage this month.
Oh, I forgot they were married.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. The last one I want to bring up, though, is Roland Young, who plays Uriah Heep. And he's like the last character you're kind of introduced to. He's like the business partner of somebody. I've forgotten. But he's this weird, creepy guy that you think is going to be villainous, and then he's not. But then, oh, wait, he is, and ends up being the final boss in David Copperfield's life.
So talk us through this final shot that really stuck with you.
Okay, I have to remember who this guy is, because it's so awkward and uncomfortable. Well, ultimately, with Uriah, it's like David Copperfield goes off and lives his own life. He gets married, too, but even that is kind of uninteresting.
It's swept under the rug.
Yeah,
too.
He's married to Marino Sullivan, and honestly, the thing that bothers me about that marriage is David Copperfield is kind of a jerk to his wife.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, did you learn anything from all of your childhood trauma, my guy?
And they're probably going to say, like, he's a jerk because of his childhood trauma. But you just don't see that forming as a child.
No, you don't. You don't. But all of that happens. She dies. It's very sad. Anyway, he like returns back to a business partner and solves the mystery of where money's been vanishing off to with Uriah Heep. And then he marries or falls in love with his childhood love, Agnes. But the way the movie ends, it's, what's her name? Aunt Betsy, like, sees the two together, their romantic love interests, and she says something kind of cutesy to her roommate, Mr. Dick, played by Lennox Paul, who is just this, like, very large man with kind of a baby face.
Yeah.
And the last frame of this, like, coming-of-age epic film is him making the goofiest face. Did that resonate with you at all?
It didn't. No, it kind of felt like if maybe they filmed a sunrise, but then the camera turned a little to the left, and like it just captures Lennox Paul just smiling at the camera for no reason.
It's like that TikTok where the woman's filming the sunset and turns, and the guy just goes, "Hi."
Yeah. Hi. Okay. Oh, okay. That's
what it is.
I love that.
It's so
such
funny.
A funny video. You're right. I mean, it feels so out of left field. And like, this is a movie called David Copperfield. It is about the character.
Yeah.
Why are we ending it on kind of a joke? Like, the cast of characters, not David in his life, and not him being like, I think things are going to be okay. It feels incomplete. And it just feels like it's 30 minutes too long, which it is.
Yeah.
But then they just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And it's based on a novel. Like, we could, it's all in the text there. So it just feels like a huge mess.
I want to read the last page of David Copperfield and just see if it says, "And then Mr. Dick made the dumbest face ever." The end.
I actually would appreciate this movie much more if that was the final page.
If they were just like, "We got to do it."
I mean, it's right there in the text. They're actually trying not to, and W.C. Fields has a gun.
Yeah.
He's like, actually, It's exactly as it says on the
Guess
page.
what, fam? We're doing it.
I didn't really mention this before. Not only was he a huge fan, he was actually technically a Dickens scholar in real life.
Wow.
So, I mean, it just makes sense that he would really want to do this. But a weird ending.
It's so bizarre. And I think that's one of the biggest sins that we've found in these older films is so many of them just don't know how to end. And they'll kind of set up a small buildup to the most impactful scene of the movie, and then it'll just completely fade away and end with, like a dumb joke, which is what this is.
Yeah, it feels like it lost the plot. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
I feel like we were on track with this being pretty great. Not as much. I didn't enjoy it as much as Les Mis, but I was enjoying it completely fine. And then I just lost all steam in it because the movie loses steam. Mm-hmm. So again, it's an odd duck because it's not Frank Lawton's fault. And like you said, it's probably not George Cukor's fault. But somewhere in the last 30, 25 minutes of this movie, it just loses all momentum that it had previously.
It really does.
Even with those characters returning and like some new characters, like you mentioned, who was the character that you mentioned, who was like kind of villainous towards the end? Roland
Uriel, that was...
Roland Young, is that right?
Yeah, it's Roland Young.
Crazy face to make looking for that.
It like disappeared.
So Roland Young, even him being introduced, it's not enough to make you very interested in what's to come.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the comedy that comes from a lot of the characters when David is young makes sense because it's almost like you're viewing them from an exaggerated child's perspective.
His point of view.
Right. And once he becomes old, and then you see that he meets his wife in Maureen O'Sullivan, and she's kind of just like, I feel like this is kind of rude to say, but she's like the most ditzy person ever. She can't cook and things. And man, David gets so mad at her for that. It really bothered me. But Roland Young is Uriel. He's like Igor, slinking around, and just the way he talks, he's like, I run the books. But I run them well. And you're like, okay, sure, I'll believe you. Why not? You don't sound suspicious at all. Uriel.
There's also a couple weird jokes that Mr. Dick makes that involve his name that I had some concerns about, especially when he's making them to kind of a child. I don't know if you remember that. There's a couple, like one weird line.
They were all weird to me, especially coming from him. Because I was like, is that like 12 babies in a trench coat?
But then the biggest baby of them all is the head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was so strange.
Honestly, I wasn't sure what was going on with Mr. Dick because it felt inappropriate isn't the right word. Mm-hmm. It kind of is, but it just kind of felt like, I don't know, Aunt Betsy was like, she doesn't say this, but it felt like, David, welcome to my home. By the way, I found this guy outside on a street like 10 years ago. I haven't had the heart to kick him out yet. Yeah. And that's just what it feels like, is just like we have this person in the house that is kind of ditzy and also kind of like unaware of what's happening at all times. But isn't that like childlike wonder that we want to have in the household? It just kind of feels like, I don't know, 180 on Aunt Betsy from the beginning, where she's giving off like big wicked witch like vibes of like, well, if it's not a daughter, I don't want it. And then leaving. And later on, she's like, get those donkeys off my lawn. She's like, Carl, what's going on here?
Yeah. I'm glad that she turned around, though, because she did end up being one of my favorite characters.
I agree. No, I had a great time. I really liked her performance. I liked a lot of the performances, and I thought that the cast behind, I guess, the David the Child's story, I thought was a lot of fun. And then beyond that, it just kind of felt like it lost the plot almost literally.
Yeah. No, I agree. This is a good time for ratings, actually. I think that the ensemble cast, this might be one of the best uses of that for me, because all of the cast is so much fun, and they're playing such unique characters, even if all of them don't really work for me, like Mr. Dick or Uriel. There's so many just cool moments of either, oh, look, it's Elsa Lanchester, or great performances like W.C. Fields, and who was the other one that I just praised like the entire time?
Aunt Betsy?
Yeah, I guess it was Aunt Betsy.
That was Edna May Oliver.
Yes. Like, there's just some great ensemble cast pieces here. But I really, really, as much as I enjoyed the first quote unquote half, or 60, 70%, with Freddie Bartholomew, that last half, I dislike it just as much. So it set me to a kind of even 2.5 stars.
That's exactly where I land. I think you actually had 3.
I did give it 3.
Do you feel like it's closer to 2.5?
No, I think I do want to give it 3 because I had fun with this movie. Like 70% of this movie.
I should feel the same way, but there's something to me that just feels so like we have ruined the goodwill that we built for the first part of this. That it almost makes me kind of like, it's like repugnant to me. Like, I just don't want to do it again.
Sure.
And that sucks because I did really enjoy Freddie Bartholomew's performance and the cast of characters behind him and the performance that he's giving. Again, it's not just like a comedy. It's seeing the heartbreak in this kid's face and seeing him kind of handle all these things. I thought that journey was really strong, and then it just kind of goes into nothing.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a problem with the core text. I can't say I'm very familiar with it. Maybe it's a problem with the adaptation of that core text. I don't know.
Sure.
But it did just make it kind of feel like, oh man, that just soured my taste completely of it. So instead of going like kind of, a little higher on the middle of the road with 3 stars, it's 2.5 for me. I couldn't do it.
I think a 2.5 and a 3 brings it closer to like what I think the true rating is of a 2.75.
True.
Something right around there.
I could live with that.
It does feel like a bowl of ice cream that sat out too long. It's just like, oh, this looks great. And then by the end of it, you're like, what was that?
Yeah, that's a great example because I think people are like, yeah, but it was still ice cream, right? And you're like, yeah, but like not the way it's supposed to be.
But now you need a straw, but not in like the milkshake way. It's more just like a soup.
Yeah, and now like instead of using the spoon, I have to lift the bowl up to get the rest. And
it's
like
too much work.
Too much work. That's exactly right.
Too much work.
You're having to put too much into the final end of it than you were for the first.
Yeah.
Great comparison. Wow, look at us.
Look at us.
We got there. So for double features, I decided to instead focus on the part of this movie that I really enjoyed, which was the coming of age nature of like David the child. And kind of you nailed it. The idea of like a point of view from this child's, perspective. You see the adults and you see like the communication between that character and these other casts of characters around them through their perspective. And it feels very kind of whimsical and airy and maybe like surreal to a degree. And that really made me think of the 1996 Danny DeVito film Matilda.
Oh, Matilda. Okay.
I thought that while there's not any of the telekinesis in Matilda as there is in David Copperfield, I felt like a lot of the characters, Trenchbull, Miss Honey, her parents, very much was a echo of what we saw here with Aunt Betsy and Macabre and Peggotty and Dan Peggotty, and Mr. Dick. All those characters just kind of felt like rather they became echoes into something like Matilda.
Yeah.
So I really liked that aspect, and I decided to lean into that rather than focus on what I didn't appreciate about the end.
I think that's great because I think all of those characters are zany while still working. They never feel out of place, while some of the characters in David Copperfield do. But yeah, that's I like it.
Maybe the issue with, rather my issue with David Copperfield, the movie, is with Matilda, it felt like Danny DeVito leaned into kind of like the manic nature of like what this must seem like to a kid versus like what's actually happening. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what the kind of direction that David Copperfield needed. Was it needed something that kind of matched that point of view from David rather than like, well, this is what's really happening and David can kind of like perceive that a certain way or maybe not, but this is what's really happening. Maybe we needed more of like insight into that perspective than just a report on it. And that's what it felt like. It was a report.
Yeah, it does feel like a report. You're right.
That's how I'd put it. What do you have?
I went with a film that covers like the beginning of one man's life, ultimately to the end. So it goes a little bit further than David's does. But he meets a slew of just bizarre characters as well. I keep saying slew. Is that even how you use that word?
I have not picked up on it, but yeah.
Okay. I hope that's how you use it.
Yeah.
Cool. Perfect. And I was so worried because I feel like I've recommended this before, but I went with Tim Burton's Big Fish.
Oh, love that movie.
Yeah.
And Albert Finney is giving big, I don't mean it this way, but he's giving off the Mr. Dick vibes.
Who does he play again?
Albert Finney.
Yeah.
He is Ewan McGregor's. He's the old man.
He's the old. Yeah. I thought that's who it was, but I didn't understand the comparison.
Oh, because they both look like big babies.
Oh. Yeah, okay. You're right. Fair play. Yeah, but this is really, I think, Tim Burton kind of at his best.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Well, I mostly agree with you. I'm a big like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, like
right.
But yes,
I think it's his.
It's modern, perfect.
Yes,
Tim Burton.
Yeah. I think it's almost his best storytelling, though.
I agree.
Because there's so many sequences in this movie. Again, you have Ewan McGregor like learning about how he dies from like a psychic or something in the movie, and then that becoming a huge plot point. And I love when he meets. Or when he goes outside of the love interest's window and he has all the daffodils. I get so like sappy romantic for
and
all
then
of that.
The slow time slows down for everyone but them.
Yeah.
When they meet, yeah.
It's good.
You know what we did accidentally?
What we do?
We did a Danny DeVito double feature, baby.
Oh my goodness, you're right. He's the ringleader.
He sure is.
He's like a werewolf in that movie, isn't he?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
I think I have to go and rewatch this movie now. I'm forgetting that. I'm definitely remembering the giant man in the circus, but I don't necessarily remember Danny DeVito the werewolf.
I think he's a werewolf, yeah.
I have to.
Steve Buscemi is in this movie.
I think I need to go and rewatch this
It's
immediately.
a good movie.
I haven't seen it in so long, but I love it.
Yeah, I used to watch it all the time. And Jessica Lange is in it, and she has a very soft spot in my heart.
Because
I have
you have a soft spot in your heart for her.
She doesn't have a soft spot.
Not that she knows about.
No, not yet. Call me, Jessica.
If there's two people we know aren't listening to this podcast,
David Copperfield and Jessica Lange. Maybe one day.
The Magician. We should specify.
Right.
Yeah.
The real David Copperfield is probably like, I had a hard beginning, and you guys should appreciate the end of my life.
Well, he's dead, so.
Oh, R.I.P. Hey, loved your double feature.
Hey, I loved your double feature.
Thanks,
and I
man.
loved that we both watched David Copperfield and we were like, Danny DeVito.
That'll do it. That'll do it.
That makes some sense. As you mentioned, we did just have our Horror of the Overlooked episode, so feel free to double back and check that out.
Yeah.
One thing that we're doing is we are, you know what, we'll talk about it in that episode, but kind of an interesting thing where the coverage of 1935 is both in July and August, in which the 13th falls on.
Yeah.
So you'll see 2 episodes for Horror of the Overlooked for 1935. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, this last episode was a special covering The Bride of Frankenstein. So.
Which, great movie. Feel free to go back and check out because we had a lot of fun talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I forget as well, David Copperfield is available on physical media. There are a couple different versions of the DVD, including a Warner Archive copy. So check that out. The next episode we'll be covering is Ruggles of Red Gap and the return of Charles Laughton, who's just like...
And not even for the last time.
No, he just keeps coming.
This year, that is.
Yeah. But he's going to be around for a long time.
Yeah.
If you have any thoughts about David Copperfield, the book, the movie, The Magician, anything at all, shoot us an email at outaopodcast@gmail.com. And if you want access to the Horror of the Overlooked podcast or any of the other cool perks we have, check out patreon.com/OUTAO podcast and stay tuned for more movies of the 8th Academy year. Anything else?
No, that sounds about right.
Perfect.
We'll wrap it up where we should, unlike David Copperfield.
Nailed it. Thank you guys for listening. As always, I'm Kyle.
I'm Ryan.
And we'll see you at the movies.